maybe it was the Atlantic, and got right to the cut right to the chase.
Well,
Got right to the heart of the national drama that's unfolding in Washington.
Today you have the honor of talking with Greg. Have you talked together, Greg? You and John?
Not yet, no.
All right, he's going to lead the conversation, John, because he is one of the moderators at COTC. And he's got some solid questions that we can get a discussion going.
Sure.
And so without further ado, why don't we get started? Greg, take it away.
All right. Senator, before I get to solid questions, I want to get to some solid compliments. I saw your work on the pro-life field, and it's absolutely heroic. And I'd like to thank you for your work there. That is absolutely wonderful. It really is.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you so much. And Kim, thank you for having me on the show. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. If I might ask you maybe a question that I'd like to know. The title of the book, the Robert Mueller, Errand Boy for the New World Order, is intriguing in a lot of ways to me. I did a bit of show prep to find out about Robert Mueller, and he seems so squeaky clean and shiny, and just seems like a great kind of Yale kind of guy. But I'm really questioning the New World Order part. If you could tell me your thoughts on the New World Order itself, and who controls it, who's the obvious, I understand who the obvious ringleader of it, it's Satan. But going beyond that, who's the earthly puppet master? Is it the banks? Is it George Soros? The deep state? The Zionists? Google? Who's the deep state to you?
Wow, what a great question. I think it's an alliance of international bankers and not just liberal politicians, but socialist politicians and forces in the media and in industry and commerce who are not only advocating, but are working towards a one world socialist government. And what does that mean for America? Of course, it means if we are subsumed into a global government, the loss of our constitutional rights, the loss of our freedom, our independence, our sovereignty, and really the demolition and immolation of our valued constitutional rights and freedoms.
It's a scary direction, isn't it? It really is.
Yes, and and I'm not certainly one of the world's foremost experts on the New World Order, but we've been reading for decades that international bankers and people that favor a socialist one world government are continually working in the political system through the media, through finances and financial channels, and also through education to bring about a one world government, which implies the end of the United States of America as we know it, and also I think a tragic set of affairs for every other independent and sovereign nation in the world, especially those nations that have a constitutional legacy and protection of individual rights.
Let's talk about your book a little bit if we could, because that's just an intriguing title, and I know we only have you for a short time. What made you pick this?
Well, let's bring this home a little bit, Greg. Basically, what we have is we have in one corner we have the Bushes, the Clintons, the Obamas, Robert Mueller, Comey, and Rod Rosenstein. In the other corner, we have Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, and the working families of America. Donald J. Trump is a distinct outsider. He's not part of the clique. He's not part of the globalists. He's not part of the deep state. He's not part of the establishment. The people that want to create a socialist one world government. Instead, President Trump, and listen, there's issues on which I may agree or disagree, but whatever else you may say about President Trump, what is clearly the case is that he's an outsider. He's a maverick. He's a cowboy in Montana. We used to call him a Bronx stomper. He's someone who's willing to stand against the tide and speak up and stand up for American freedom, independence, and sovereignty. And to move forward, what we have is Robert Mueller being brought in to take out the President of the United States. And if we look at it closely and look at his 30-year career preceding his appointment as special counsel, we see cover up after cover after cover up, Greg. We started in the book with Whitey Bulger. Some 30 years ago, Whitey Bulger was operating and directing a homicidal reign of mafia terror in Boston. People ended up dead. The shocking, startling fact was, Greg, the FBI agents were protecting Whitey Bulger's mafiosa racketeering operation. By the way, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's well-documented fact, news articles, journalism, court proceedings. So we have the FBI protecting a mafia kingpin, and the FBI was protecting him by tipping him off into on local law enforcement investigations, investigations from other states, allowing him to operate, stay in power, stay out of the court system, stay out of prison. In addition, we know that at least one or more researchers have said that FBI agents actually assisted Whitey Bulger in the commission and or cover-up of murders. Well, the question is, where was Robert Mueller in all of this? Geographically and chronologically, Greg, he was right in the middle of it. You see, during Whitey Bulger's, right in the middle of Whitey Bulger's 19-year reign of terror, Robert Mueller was first the assistant U.S. attorney for Boston, then the U.S. attorney for Boston. What did this preeminent law enforcement officer do about Whitey Bulger's homicidal reign of mafiosa, murder? Nothing. He said nothing, didn't lift a finger, saw something, said nothing. If we move forward a short span of time, we find Robert Mueller in the middle of another cover-up. That would be the bombing of Pan Am 103, Greg, in 1988. What we know, what researchers have documented, and this is not theory, again, very well documented, abundantly documented, thoroughly documented, that very shortly after the bombing over Lockerbie, Scotland, in which 270 people lost their lives, it was well known that Ahmed Jibril, a terrorist, had the bomb built. It was known that Mansour al-Qassar, a Syrian drug dealer, had helped get the bomb on board through his network of paid-off baggage handlers. And we knew that some corrupt CIA elements were involved. An Israeli intelligence investigative agency has determined, a private security firm from Israel determined, or led by an Israeli, determined that the CIA control actually, or a CIA control actually gave the green light for that flight to take off, knowing that there was a bomb and the plane was going to explode. Parenthetically, there was a United States Army Major Charles McKee that was on board. He was actually flying from the Mideast to America to blow the whistle on the fact that the CIA was helping Al-Qassar trafficking heroin into America. So we had the CIA, we had Al-Qassar, we had Ahmed Jibril. Enter Robert Mueller. He goes political. He's not focused on proof. What does he do, Greg? He makes sure that Jibril, Al-Qassar, and the crooked CIA agents all get off the hook, get a pass, get out of jail free card, get a mulligan. And he turns the tables and scapegoats two Libyan intelligence officers who had nothing to do with the bombing. We can go forward to BCCI, and stop me if I'm boring you, but
not at all, please.
What we know, Greg, is that in BCCI, that was the international banking scandal in the 20th century, perhaps one of the largest. The BCCI was, that international bank was money laundering and financing drug trafficking, terrorism, crooked intel ops. They were also stealing money from investors and bribing politicians. How much fraud was involved and how much money was involved in BCCI? Not millions, billions with a B, George Bush 41 brought Mueller in to sweep the evidence under the rug and make sure the big boys really served little or no time, basically got a slap on the wrist. Robert Mueller's math is very interesting. Paul Manafort is now in solitary confinement. I was informed last night that he's in solitary confinement. He's potentially facing life in prison for potentially ripping off the federal government for millions of dollars. Yet in BCCI, where billions of dollars were laundered, stolen, or used to finance illegal activities, basically the big boys got off with a slap on the wrist. So Robert Mueller's got some problems with his math, according to most Americans. We can talk about Ruby Ridge. The Weaver family gets shot up. A federal sniper admitted that he attempted to kill Randy Weaver by severing his spine with a long-range rifle and scope. Randy Weaver looked at the last minute. He was actually looking at the dead body of his 14-year-old son who had been submachine gunned to death in the back by other federal agents. Randy Weaver was injured. His son was shot to death. His wife was shot in the head while she was standing unarmed in the doorway of her home holding her infant daughter. What's the Robert Mueller connection in this scenario? The people that were around in proximity to Mueller at the time said he was furious over the Ruby Ridge incident in which federal agents shot up the Weaver family. But was he furious that the federal agents had basically partially massacred Randy Weaver's family? No. Robert Mueller, Greg, was angry that anyone had the audacity to criticize federal agents for shooting up this family. Tell me if I get boring. I don't want to.
No, this is important stuff.
Just in the quick flyover is 9/11. Bush 41 brings Mueller in to cover up for BCCI. Bush 43 appoints Robert Mueller as the head of the FBI 1 week before 9/11. After 9/11, Mueller immediately shifts into high gear and begins flying Saudis, bin Laden, Saudi officials out of the United States of America so that federal law enforcement could not question them, interrogate them, or investigate what really happened 9/11. In effect, he got the people who not only most likely had the culpable knowledge, we now know very clearly that ranking Saudis and bin Ladens who were in America, that the Saudis generally provided logistic support, money, operational assistance, lodging, networks, connections, dinners for the hijackers. Well, Mueller got them out of the United States of America so that we could not investigate the largest terrorist attack on American soil in the history of America. At the same time, Greg, and through this we see the classic footprint of a Mueller operation. Mueller rounds up hundreds of hapless immigrants in New York City who had nothing to do with the bombing, illegally detains them, puts them in jail for weeks or months. Some people say he personally supervised the mistreatment of these immigrants. What did they all have in common? One thing: they had nothing to do with 9/11. So here's Mueller letting the people who were most likely connected out of the country, flying them out of the country, and people who had nothing to do with the crime, he scapegoats to make it look to the media like he's actually doing something. And of course, as we discuss in the book, and many people have documented, Robert Mueller thereafter continued to do everything in his power as the head of the FBI, not to conduct an investigation into 9/11, but to stop investigators from uncovering the Saudi connection and what really happened. We know after that in the anthrax mailings, Greg, that and it's just shocking to me how much difference there is between who Robert Mueller is based upon his actions and this pristine alabaster iconic image that we've been presented by the media of a straight arrow Eagle Scout Dudley Do-Right. He's Boris bad enough, and believe me, he's more than bad enough. In the anthrax, he targeted an innocent guy, Dr. Bruce Ivins, who ultimately ended up dead right as, very fortuitously for the Mueller investigation, he ended up dead right as Mueller's investigation was going to face the public scrutiny of legal proceedings. And the problem with that, of course, the official story, Bruce Ivins committed suicide. Other people are not so sure. They believe that he may have been murdered. But it was very good timing from Robert Mueller's point of view, Mr. Ivins' death, because Mueller's investigation and prosecution was fixing to have to stand up in court and withstand public scrutiny and media scrutiny. And the problem with Mueller's investigation is Bruce Ivins didn't do it. Richard Spurzel, one of the top UN anthrax and spore experts, Kimberly Kennedy, in the world, said there's no way Ivins did this. He said there's only 4 or 5 people in America that could have produced this weaponized anthrax. Dr. Ivins isn't one of them. He said, Richard Spurzel, am one of them. It would have taken me over a year with my own staff, the highest, most advanced technological equipment that could available for me to have the possibility of doing it, and what it would take me a year with the staff and the best equipment to do. They're saying that Bruce Ivins did in a few days. By the way, his handwriting didn't match the handwriting on the warnings. He was never shown to have been in the area from which the anthrax mailings were sent. And his colleagues never did believe that he was guilty. They were mortified by the fact that the FBI targeted him, isolated him, and basically drove him crazy. And we do not know for sure, I don't, whether he committed suicide or was killed.
Senator, let me ask you this. I've been researching for the past 3 days as much as I can on Mr. Mueller, and he's got his fingerprints everywhere, and that's disturbing.
Yes.
But I always ask that one thing you learn in law school, which I never went to. Why? What's he got? What benefits for him? He doesn't seem like a flashy guy. He doesn't live high on the hog. Is there some area we're missing?
Well, I think you alluded to it, and I think you know the answer to this question. People that ask good questions because they already know the answer before they ask them, and you understand the answer. It's because he was brought in by the international bankers, the deep state, the deep state insider establishment globalists, precisely because they knew what they had in Robert Mueller. They knew that he could be counted on to cover up. They knew he could be counted on to lie, get rid of evidence, and of course, implement that Mueller hallmark trait of persecuting the innocent and letting the guilty go free. He was brought in to take out, again, simplistic for me, and this is the way I think, but Bush's, Clinton's, Obama's, the international bankers, and Mueller, Comey, and Rosenstein in one corner. The other corner, it's Donald Trump and regular folks. And Donald Trump's causing trouble. He's not playing by the script. He's breaking their rules. He's saying America should be independent. He's not wanting to trash our economy. He's actually building our economy. He's pulling the plug on these disastrous trade deals. He's an outsider. Mueller is the consummate, corrupt company man.
So he's a true believer.
Yeah, whatever he believes in, but it isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't the Bible or Constitution. And Kimberly, how many books did I send you? Did I just send you one, or did you get more? I want Greg to have his own copy.
Greg needs to have one because we'd like to continue the conversation, Senator, if that's okay with you, because John, I have to share with you. I mean, when you read on Twitter the high regard for Robert Mueller, and he's coming for Trump, and and I don't even know how to respond to this stuff. And I'm hoping we can get into that, because that's the other half of why we're doing what we're doing. Is
let's get one of these books in Greg's hands, because we need his mind to help us connect the dots on this, Kimberly.
I'd be honored.
And how to communicate these things, because when I'm praying that things will break before the 2020 election, and that the truth will come out as the left is threatening us. So just you wait, TikTok, boy, watch out, Trump. And I'll just say things like, yes, we are all waiting for the truth to come out. But John, how do you counteract this stuff? Or are you just waiting for things to unfold? What are your thoughts?
You know, we're pushing the book because we want the discussion we want discussion all around America and I appreciate discussion led by people like Kimberly Kennedy and Greg Cristiano. Greg, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Beautifully. Thank you.
You've got this is America. You've got an Irish woman, you've got an Italian, and my dad is a Yugoslavian. This is America. And by the way, I'm certainly not implying that America is limited to these three ethnic groups. It encompasses 1,000 ethnic groups, but it's about the people. And I think we need to get this discussion going. And I think the other thing is people need to pick up their phone and get their congressman and senator on the phone and say, where are you? Are you standing up? Are you standing by? Are you stepping into the fight? Or are you just standing down? I think, I'm encouraging citizens to get their congressmen and senators on the phone and say, you better get off the fence. This is a scam. And, the book equips them. And I think I can't tell congressmen to buy our book, but this is too important. Next to getting back to God and stopping abortion, I don't know of any other more important issue right now in the history of America than stopping Mueller from trashing President Trump and this presidency and helping turn our nation over to the Clintons, the Obamas, and the Bushes. I'm sorry, I'm making a speech now, but y'all got
it's well said.
Fired up.
My question for you, John, is Greg, I hope you can hear me.
I can.
Okay, great. Your research, is this well known? Or are there people writing and saying these things to the detail that you are?
This is a great book. Now, and it's debatable whether the greatness of this book actually has very much to do with John Milkovich or not. This is a great book, Kimberly and Greg, because of other people, federal agents, whistleblowers, cops, soldiers, veterans, authors, researchers, investigators, families of 9/11 victims. Over the last 30 years, they have dug and documented, witness by witness, document by document, chronological events, the chronicity of events, and really they have dug up the facts. What we did in this book, attempted to do, is assemble the facts together and basically compartmentalize them in these different 7 or 8 cover-ups that Mueller's been in the middle of, and they get the credit. But this is an American product. And I will say that there's some foreign authors that we cite and quote and rely on their work in the book, and there's some foreign investigators. And but yeah, this is a book really written by the people, and we had the honor of putting it together. But it's factual, it's documented, and Mueller, there's as much difference between, the difference between the real Mueller based upon his body of work and the media image. The difference between the real Mueller and the media image is the difference between night and day. As far as the East is from the West, as to use biblical terminology.
I'd like to hear from both Greg and then you, John. Why does this matter to the American people? Why is this conversation important? Is it important?
Well, I think we see an extraordinary amount of unrest. But of course, the pushback against the Antifa people, the social unrest, mayhem in Venezuela, the France Yellow Vests, the Charlottesville March, the Brexit, it really stems up to a New World Order issue. And that's a concern I really have, where it's so much out of our hands and more of a global problem, and no other country is capable to really fix it except us.
And that's a great point. That goes right to the heart of the issue, Greg, because we still have a democracy in America. We still have a republic if, as Benjamin Franklin said, we're able to keep it. We have got to stand up and demand, and listen, I know that you can't coerce congressmen and senators into doing what you think is right, But I'll tell you what, I think congressmen and senators that are standing on the sideline or straddling the fence or saying, and I'm sick and tired of hearing, well, Robert Mueller is a good guy and he ought to be allowed to finish his investigation. What world are you living in, people? Do your homework. If you don't want to read my book, you go ahead and study the CIA reports and the journalistic reports and Time Magazine and the media reports. And what about Mueller's chief deputy when he was the head of the FBI going on CNN and saying literally that the government was going to kill President Trump? What's that guy's name? Oh gosh, was it Mudd? Oh, let me see if I can pull it up.
Roger Mudd? Is that who you're talking about?
Let's see. I'm going to try to pull it up. And I apologize. I should have that. Actually, the cat's name was Phil Mudd. Very close, Kimberly. You have the last name correct. Phil Mudd went on CNN and made this statement. Quote, and by the way, he was the former FBI deputy director to Robert Mueller. Someone needs to tell me that, needs to explain to me why, if Robert Mueller is really engaged and concerned about preventing a violation of the law, why he's allowing one of his former deputy directors to make this statement. Quote, let me give you the bottom line as a former government official. Government is going to kill this guy. Unquote. And he said in the same interview, quote, the government is going to kill this guy, but because he doesn't support them, unquote. And yeah, and you notice he's not complaining that President Trump doesn't support the people. He's complaining because he doesn't support the government. Of course, he was complaining about poor CIA agent and State Department officials that some of them might have lost their jobs. Well, you know what? A lot of people lost their lives behind these shenanigans that Robert Mueller sanctioned. It just outrageous.
And we're all vulnerable to their activities, every one of us.
Yes, but this is our opportunity as Americans. And calling our congressmen and senators, say, you're not getting a mulligan on this issue. You either take a stand and demand that Mueller be held accountable. He's not above the law. He should have to follow the law. You either demand that a special prosecutor be appointed to investigate the investigation, or I'm going to be speaking in my community about the stand that you did not take the next time you come up for re-election.
Do you have any real friends in the FBI? Any people that you trust?
There is at least one person that I know, but they're not, they're a field agent to my knowledge, a nice person, genuine person, honest person, but not top ranking bureaucrats. No.
Well, it's kind of scary if as my Italian grandmother would say, if the head of the fish stinks, so goes the tail. And you see that in so much of the top acting orders here. It's very scary.
Yes, it's and I love the conversation, Kimberly. I hope that I get to talk to you and Greg again. Thank you so much for letting me be on the show. What a great privilege. And Greg, I want to send you a copy of the book and look forward to your comments and let me know, if you think we missed the mark. Kimberly, thank you so much.
Senator, we'll do this again, and we appreciate your efforts. We really do.
Greg, I appreciate you. Kimberly, thank you so much. And you all have a wonderful evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Greg.
Bye-bye now.